Absolutely. We'll take some nice pictures of that later. You and Josh.
There he is, mate. There he is.
Get some stickers on your arms.
Yeah, exactly. Tattooed up, yeah. I'm going to have to keep an eye out for people who are late.
I didn't mind doing that. Yeah. You're going to get something for it. I'm just going to be being really happy watching it.
Yeah, no, I'll come out.
I'll keep an eye
slides.
What time do you want to kick it out?
I'm probably going to do it now, to be honest. It's 7 o'clock already, so yeah.
Good start, so I'll keep an eye on it.
Thank you, mate. Appreciate it.
Yeah, half food at like half time.
Yeah, 7:30. Yeah,
7:30. Those t-shirts for attendees or which I will send to you when I get back.
Yeah.
That's nice. Whose t-shirt is
Boys and girls. Big, small, and little. Little is small, I'm sorry.
We only got to L. I think we only got to large, yeah, sorry.
Okay, I'll have to go to the gym.
Oh, let's look.
Are you looking for L as well? Yeah. I'll do my hands on that. I don't think it's going
While you're talking, I'm just going to connect to the internet.
Yes.
I'll need that.
Yeah, the password. It's Robbie Burns. It's the cloud call guest network, so actually. So,
Local guest. And then the password is Robbie, capital R, BB, IE, capital B, U, R. That's the one? Yeah, thank you. Right. Dave made it, yeah.
I smell like two bills. I think it's really hot.
You had them in your house?
Someone's secretly cooking it. You should check your check now. Yeah. Someone's all right. I don't know, check it. It's okay from here.
So, what about the other one? Tom, loved him.
Yeah, he worked for
only like 10 minutes.
What?
Where did the board go, Josh?
No.
So you can just change it every week, so it doesn't matter what we say. We were like, no, Anchor is the best. Yeah, decide where it goes.
Right. Okay. I think we'll make a start then. Thank you all for coming again. We're at the June event, obviously. And sorry about the last one being cancelled. We had a speaker ill right at the last minute, but hopefully that won't happen again. But we do need speakers for next month. So if you are in the mood for giving a talk on whatever you feel like, whether you're a first-time speaker or not, give me a shout and we can get something arranged. Also, we've got food coming at 7:30 in about 20 minutes, and if you need anything else like bathrooms or anything like that, you can go outside or see me with any other questions. We're also sponsored by Cloud Call, that's the offices you're in today, and also by Harvey Nash, who gave us the t-shirts and also the stickers, so help yourself. Also, there'll be a bit of a prize for best tweet photo caption competition, so do that. Tweet it at LeicesterJS and we'll take a look afterwards. Also, DDD East Midlands. I don't know whether you've heard about this, but I got in touch with the organisers and asked me to promote the event. We're going to have a takeover event at LeicesterJS in August, so there'll be stickers on offer and other things to help you get up to speed with that conference and what it's all about.
It's in Nottingham, isn't it?
It is in Nottingham, yeah. Yeah, I don't know where in Nottingham, but yeah, it's in Nottingham. The next one is going to be here again. I'm not sure on the talk yet, but it's on the 18th of July. So RSVP for that, and yeah, you can secure your place. But now it's just over to Andrea Muttoni from Amazon, who's a senior solutions architect. Something like that. Yeah, and he's going to talk to us about Amazon Alexa and skill development.
Do you guys mind if I sit down, especially for the coding part?
We do.
So yes,
we do.
mind.
Mind.
Uh-oh.
Yes.
So I have to be careful about what I say?
No. We're all friends.
Okay. All right. So
We'll have to use the backup.
let's see.
It's a
AirPlay.
good thing I've prepared a backup.
So I told you about the HDMI cable. Sorry about that. It's just blocked on this computer.
That's fine. Let's hope this works. I did test it.
8 million for the HDMI cable. Sorry. Save the webcam.
No worries. That's fine.
Nice.
Oh yeah, there we go. Cool.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. All right. So, thank you for having me. People are getting sick at home, like. My name is Andrea. I work in London for Amazon, and Josh asked me to come down and talk about Alexa. You were at the LeicesterJS
I was.
meetup? Yeah. Last year.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a whole year ago.
So happy to be here, and the goal of today is to tell you what Alexa is, how does it work to build for Alexa, so how do you make a voice app a skill, and let's start off with the why you should and why voice, why we're excited about voice. I'll try and keep the PowerPoint to a minimum, just in terms of time management, since there's like pizza in 10-15 minutes. I'll do the PowerPoint before the pizza, and then the coding part, so that we have a natural break. So I'd like to start off with this image. This is an image, not this particular image that you see here, because probably everyone's seen it before. But this is an image that I've asked a designer to extend by 2 when I joined the Alexa team. And the reason I asked the designer to extend this image is because many people see it as over time we start crouching. And you could say that over time we've learned to kind of uncrouch. But the way I see it is that over time, technology got more complex. And by getting more complex, it kind of forced us to learn how to use it, and it stopped being intuitive, right? When you had a hammer back in the Stone Age, or maybe a bit later, because in the Stone Age you only had rocks, but in the medieval times, when you had a hammer or a sword, you could do whatever the hell you wanted with that sword and it was going to work, right? When computers started coming about, you had to learn things like the terminal, you had to learn what commands do what, with kind of cryptic software applications. And obviously things got better in the last 10, 20 years, but especially with mobile, there was this whole influx of intuitive design, gestures, touch, being able to naturally interact with something. And with voice, hopefully, what our aim is that it's going to be even more natural. So rather than having to figure out what button to press or what gesture to do in order to invoke a specific command, you can just express yourself and the technology will adapt to you and not vice versa. So that's the rationale of voice, and this is why I commissioned a designer to enhance this internet-old image. So a couple examples of why I think voice is powerful, and just a big caveat for the whole thing. When I say voice is more natural and it's like a new evolution, I don't mean that it should replace existing ways of interacting, because if you think about it, even today with intuitive app design, we still use the command line, we still use desktop software, and it's just a matter of using the right tool for the job. So let's see where voice shines. Let's start from the simple things. So without voice, how would you add a to-do today? Without voice, if you were trying to doing it the modern way, how would you add a to-do item? If I told you to do something really important, what would you do today?
Probably write it down.
Write it down, right?
The calendar.
The calendar. So you would use your phone,
Yeah.
right? But yes, I would also write it down, but then I'd lose that piece of paper, so I'd probably put it in my phone. But first I have to find my phone. In this case, it's right here on the table, but it could be somewhere under the couch. Then I have to unlock it. Things are getting fast with Face ID, Touch ID, etc. Find the right app. There's a lot of apps. Find the right to-do list, because there's multiple to-do lists. Type the name of the task. Exit the app, and put away the phone. Or if you have a voice-enabled device, you can just tell it to add a to-do. So you remove all those unnecessary steps that usually kind of going from wanting to do something to having that thing done has a lot of unnecessary steps that you don't need. Whereas here, you just express yourself, you express what you want to do, and it happens. Let's look at a little bit more complex example, or a bit more, let's say, complex. And anyone here, I don't know if it's here in Leicester, but do you use Ocado? Do you have Ocado here? Yeah? Cool. So Ocado is an online-only supermarket. Anyone use it? Yeah? I sometimes use it. And they have the app, the mobile app, and the skill, the Alexa skill. So I tried to compare the two experiences of adding tuna to my trolley. So here's the app flow. I open my phone, and this is the second page of my phone, so it's a little messy. And I have a folder called food. Then I tap on the folder, tap on the Ocado app, wait for it to load, which I didn't put here, which is like 3-4 seconds. Then tap on the search screen, on the search bar, type tuna. That's 4 taps. Think if I was looking for sparkling water. And then browse the tunas that I want. I usually buy this when it's on discount, because £6 for tuna is a little much, but Essential Waitrose tuna steak, and put that to trolley, and yeah. Otherwise, they have the Alexa skill, and I'm at my home, just relaxing, working on my computer and I just say, Alexa, ask Ocado to add tuna to my trolley. Or add tuna to my trolley using Ocado. And Ocado implemented the skill in a good way, whereby it looks at previous tunas you've bought and proactively suggests what tuna to add. So you don't need to search via voice things that you can't see. So these are a couple examples, and there's a lot of skills now that do all sorts of things, from music to games to, services like this. Uber has a skill where you can call your Uber ride to your house. But the reason I showed you these examples is not to tell you this is the way to do it, but just to get you thinking about what ways in your daily life a skill might help you, or you wish you didn't have to go through 10 different screens to get something done. And after the pizza, I'll hopefully also show you how easy it is to make something that does that. And get thinking about what you want to build, because I'll be asking someone to suggest an idea to build together. So a little bit about Alexa, just so you have some context. Alexa is not the device. The devices are, Echo, yes. But they are, I'm just gonna save the audience here. The devices, nope, that's not working, are, the Echo devices are not Alexa. And the difference is that the devices themselves are just a speaker, for example, with a microphone and a Wi-Fi chip. And the only thing they know how to do is to listen for the wake word Alexa. Everything else happens on the Alexa service, right? And there's two sides to the service. The first one is confusingly named Alexa Voice Service. And the Alexa Voice Service is an SDK for any device manufacturer to Alexa enable their own devices. So let's say I wanted to Alexa enable this webcam. I would use the Alexa Voice Service, and I would put a Wi-Fi chip on this webcam, and I could say, Alexa, add a book flight to my to-do list, and it would work because this particular device doesn't need to know how to use Alexa. It just connects and sends my instructions over. And it's also free. So if you have a Raspberry Pi, a microphone, and a Wi-Fi chip, you can build your own Echo if you want. So that's the Alexa Voice Service, but we're going to talk today, and there's a lot of brands building on the Alexa Voice Service, but we're going to talk today about the Alexa Skills Kit, which is the other side. So our vision is Alexa everywhere, right? So anything, you don't have to worry about if you're close to Alexa or not. But once you do have an Alexa device that you can talk to, what content do you have access to, right? What experiences, what skills does Alexa have? And this is where developers add skills. So there's a bunch of different skills, and some of the most popular and successful skills are actually not the big brands. Now you see big brands here because it's nice to show that a lot of big brands are building for Alexa, but some of the most popular and most used and most well-rated skills are actually by independent developers. Also free to build skills. No cost associated with it. Oh, I should also mention that there's a couple perks with building skills. So hopefully, so for the last 2 years, we did like a monthly promotion where if you built a skill, you would get a T-shirt, you would get like an Echo Dot, etc. Now we kind of upped the ante and made it more like a multi-stage process. So this promotion is going to be valid until November, so you have plenty of time. If you publish a skill, which again is free, you get a smart plug. If you publish 3 skills and one of them gets 150 unique users within the first 30 days, you get 50 pounds. It's euros there, but don't worry, it's pounds. And if you add the Alexa presentation language, which is like a JSON-based templating language that allows you to display information and multimodal templates on the screen, you also get an Echo Show. Whether it's an existing skill or a new skill. So let's get more into the how it works. And don't worry if you can't read in the back, but I'll just walk you through it. So as I said, when you speak, your voice, so when I speak right now, to you I'm making sense, hopefully, but to a device, it's just hearing sound waves. I might as well be saying blah, 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 blah. And when the device hears Alexa, it starts streaming that audio noise to the Alexa service. And two things happen. The first thing is it goes from noise to text. And then from text to understanding. So when you have the text, what do you have to do with it? What do you do? And if I say something like add tuna to my Ocado trolley, it also detects that I'm invoking a skill, which Ocado has built, or a skill that you have built. And it'll recognize that I'm trying to do something with that skill, and it'll send a JSON request to my backend, which in this case will be Lambda. But I'll show you, you don't need an AWS account to get started today. But you're still going to use Lambda. And all the skill has to do is respond back with a JSON response. That's high level. But what does the JSON response, what does the JSON request contain? The JSON request contains what the intention of the user is. If you've worked with chatbots, with other voice, experiences, you know that the concept of intent. You define what intentions your skill can satisfy. For example, Ocado may have 10 intents, one of which is add item to trolley, remove item from trolley, book delivery, cancel delivery, help. All these intents are declared at the voice interface level on the Alexa platform, and then they are fulfilled when the JSON request hits. So when I say add tuna to my trolley, Alexa recognizes that the user is trying to use Ocado and trying to invoke the intent add item to trolley. It'll hit my backend with the JSON request with that intent name. I implement it and handle it however I want. I have full control of this side. And all I have to do is then respond back with a JSON response containing what I want Alexa to say back. And it could be text, which will be rendered to speech using Alexa's voice, or it could be audio. Make sense so far? Cool. Any questions, by the way, so far?
Yeah, I have one. So you're talking about intent. So
Yeah.
if you add an intent, like add item to basket.
Yeah.
Does it have to be like that precise,
So that's a good question. So
like,
basically, does it have to be a one-to-one match
Exactly,
with exactly what what to expect?
Mhm.
The answer is no. So when you train, and we'll do it later, when you train an intent, you are giving as many example sentences as you can, right? But even if you give 5 or 6 examples, and the user says something close to that, it's still going to map to that intent. Alexa will always map to the closest intent possible. We also have a fallback intent. So if you say bananas, and you're not, you're in the Uber skill, it's going to hit the fallback intent, and you're going to have to handle it. But if you say, get me a ride instead of book ride, it's still going to hit the book ride intent.
You have to specify what application you're using at the start.
Yes. So that's a good question as well. There's different types of skills. Smart home skills have limited intents, like turn on, turn off, turn up by X%, turn down by X%. The advantage is, if you use a smart home skill, you don't need to invoke it. You can just say turn off the lights. You don't have to say ask Philips Hue to turn off the lights. But when you use a custom skill, where you make up the intents, you have to say open Uber, or ask Uber for a ride, the first time. Then when the skill gets invoked, the session is active, and you can speak directly with the skill. What we're doing on our side is also doing something called name-free skill invocation, where we're trying to automatically suggest, even for custom skills, what skill to use. If you say something like order a ride, and it sees you have the Uber skill enabled, it'll use Uber automatically. So yes, for now, yes. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, we also have an analytics page where you see all the intents being triggered. You can also see the an anonymized view of the most common things people say to your skill, what intent it was mapped to, what variables were picked up. Yeah. You don't. Sorry, but you don't get it at runtime, so you don't get the raw text at the request. You get the closest intent, including a fallback intent, but then you have an intent history, which is like an anonymized recap of what people have said. Yes, but you can't tie it back to a specific request. You can only tie it back to what was said, what it was mapped to, and what the outcome was.
Does that mean then that the first week is saying Uber right, and you remember that for the next time? You don't have to specify Uber. So you wouldn't remember the request.
So there's a couple distinctions. For very popular skills, it's actually you don't really need to remember the name. So that's one layer. The other layer for less popular skills, Alexa won't remember just because you said something. It may be something that it'll be able to do in the future, but for now, you have to invoke it. When you invoke a skill, you say open Uber, the blue light comes on. You can speak to Uber directly. You can say, order a ride. Oh, it's going to be 2 minutes. Is that okay? Yes. How long do you want it to be? Blah, 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 blah. And then when the session closes, so the blue light turns off, then you would have to re-invoke Uber. Right? So you can say open Uber, or you can say ask Uber for a ride. So that's invoking the skill or having a one-shot invocation. But the first, let's say, utterance of the session needs to have the skill name. All right, let's move a little forward so that we don't need to spend too much time on this. Yeah, so as I said, there's two sides to it. There's the voice interface, which is what we're going to be defining our intents, our slots, which I'll show you what they are. How are we on time? Yeah? Okay, perfect. Okay, great. Hopefully they're lost for 5-10 more minutes. Great. Then on the back end, we implement all the intents, or we handle all the intents that we declare. It used to be, and you can still do this, that you would typically develop the voice interface on the developer portal, and you would implement the backend using either your own server or AWS or any other cloud provider. But now we actually have something called Alexa Hosted Skills, which uses an AWS account under the hood, so you don't need to even open one, and it all happens here. So on developer.amazon.com, and I'll show you how it basically adds a code tab to your build, to your console. And I was overhearing someone talking about Cloud9. It uses like an instance, a simplified instance of Cloud9, where you can develop on the browser or via the command line, and have everything be on one site. So you don't need to open an account, you don't need a credit card, you don't need anything to build a skill. And under the hood, it uses the free tier, so you have 1 million Lambda invocations per month for free. All right, so what's the terminology that we're going to use today? And then we'll get into the pizza thing. The first thing is the wake word. So Alexa is how you invoke a device. Then you have the launch phrase, so open Uber, and the invocation name. For one-word invocations like Uber, you need to prove, if you want to publish the skill, you need to prove to Amazon, to us, that you own the rights to that word. So Uber, there can only be one Uber skill. But something generic like Restaurant Finder, there can be multiple skills having that invocation name, and then it's up to the user to decide which one to use and to enable on their account. Also important to note, when you do register your developer account, developer.amazon.com, which you can use your Amazon email or the email that you signed up to Amazon with. The good thing about that is that if you do have Alexa devices at home, any skill you're developing, you can test right away on any device you have. So there's no deploying, there's no installing on specific devices. You don't need to publish it. Anytime you're coding, you can try it out instantly on your own devices if you use the same email as the email you're using for your Alexa devices. But yeah, so you can launch a skill with various words, or you can have a one-shot invocation, which we were talking about earlier, where you can invoke a skill and also give it an instruction, like add tuna to my trolley using Ocado, or ask Ocado to add tuna to my trolley. And you see here, there's different ways of saying the same thing, right? For breakfast, for a good breakfast place, to find places to eat in the morning, a spot that serves the most important meal of the day. All of these map to a single intent, which is, for example, let's say we defined it as recommendation intent. And we train Alexa with different sentences to map to this. Now, those of you who maybe have explored chatbots before, or are very detail-oriented, what's the issue here? If I were to tell you that as a developer, any sentence that's similar to this, even remotely similar to this, will map to a single string, which is recommendation intent, what's the issue that I might run into? That's all you get, recommendation intent, and you have to handle it. What's the issue that might arise? You don't know the specifics, right? I could say a bad breakfast place if I wanted to recommend it to someone I don't like. Or I could say where to eat lunch, or find places to eat in the afternoon. And that would change the whole request dramatically, right? So sometimes we have the same intent, which is to recommend something, but we want to have details associated with that intent. So we have something called slots, which are basically variables. When you build your voice interface, you tell Alexa what parts of the sentence you need to implement, right? So in this case, we have a slot called distance, for example, right? And Alexa will send a distance value of 4, already cleaned for us, that we can use in our handler. So we'll maybe call a location API and filter results by 4 miles. Even better, you should have 2 slots. One is for the number, and the other is for the unit of measurement, because I could say 4 meters, or I could say 4 kilometers, or 4 miles. But you get the idea. In this case, we're using a built-in slot called Amazon.number, because every slot needs to have a type, so Alexa knows what to look out for. And the most commonly used built-in slots are dates, numbers, and times, because you don't want to have to parse those yourselves. So if I say 2 weeks from now, I want an ISO date that I can use, for example, in moment.js, right? Or if I say 7 days ago, I don't want to have to parse that myself. Same thing for numbers. If I say 49, I don't want the string 49, I want the number 49. And then you also have custom slots, so you can make your own, slot type with maybe different types of food, and teach Alexa that this slot is your custom slot type of food types. So that's about it on the theory. Maybe we can wait for pizza by starting to think about what skill to build together after pizza. Anyone have any ideas?
We can order a pizza on everyone.
Okay, redundancy, I like it. So a pizza ordering skill? Yeah?
That's right.
Okay. Any other ideas? Open. Skill generates more skill. Okay. Yeah, definitely. So depending on how much time we have, I'll show you how to get the whole skill working end to end. We may not get to implementing the API call, but that's something that's not Alexa specific, so you can do that later. And I'll share the code that we make that we have by the end, so that you can pick it up and continue it. So that could be one idea for sure. Yeah, you have an idea? Okay. Oh, so you keep track of your. Okay. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna have to start voting soon because there's so many ideas. Any last entrants? All right. So what were the ideas? We had. What was yours? I have trouble remembering. Okay, skill identity skill.
No skill ideas.
Okay. So only the ideas. Okay. Then you wanted infinite wishes, but then you also proposed something else, which was? Oh, the meetups in specific, yeah, in your area. Okay, so the meetup skill. Then there was another one. No? Pizza, yes. And the other one was the fridge tracking. Okay. Anyone have any particular preferences? Do we have like a raise of hands of what you want to build? I'm trying to think of what the best skill is in terms of showing you different things. Well, actually, the pizza and the fridge can kind of go together, because if your fridge is empty, then you can also call for pizza. Okay, so no infinite skills, but maybe we can implement another intent, which is like, I'm out of ideas, and it'll suggest. Or while you're waiting for the pizza, it recommends a skill to build, for example. All right, so while we wait for the pizza, I will show you at least part of what's involved. This is really, they're not seeing anything. Okay. Cool, can everyone see it? Yes. So I'm on developer.amazon.com, and I'll link to you not only the skill that we build, but I'll also link to you inside maybe the file that I'll link on GitHub. I'll put a link to a source of different templates that we have that you can start off from, if you don't want to start off from this one. So we're on developer.amazon.com, which is not AWS. This is where the consumer side of things happen. This is where you build your App Store apps, where you build your skills. And let's go to the Alexa section. Let me zoom in first so that you see better. Everyone see okay? Go to the Alexa Skills Kit. And this is where you have your skills that you've built. And we're going to go ahead and create a skill. So the first decision we have to make, apart from going to English UK, is to decide what we should call this skill. Empty fridge. Empty fridge. And remember I was telling you earlier there's different types of skills. There's custom, there's smart home, there's flash briefing, which is essentially an RSS feed of up to 7 items that you can ask for in Alexa flash briefings in the morning. You can listen to all of them at once when you wake up and when you get ready. So very easy to make. It even almost integrates out of the box with blogs. So if you have a blog, it can work like that. And video is like a custom skill, but with playback control built in. So let's go with custom. And this is where you can choose between provisioning your own skill or using Alexa hosted. And you see Alexa will host skills in your account up to the AWS free tier limits. You can gain access to an AWS Lambda endpoint, 5 gigabytes of media storage with 15 gigabytes of monthly data transfer, and a table for session persistence. So it kind of gives you like a mini AWS environment just for you, including logs. So you don't, yeah, let's go with Alexa hosted so we don't need to, open an AWS account and all that stuff. And if you do reach the limit of the AWS free tier, it'll ask you to migrate to your own AWS account, and you can just, with one click, migrate to your own account. So there's no harm done if you do start with this and then outgrow it, which I hope everyone will outgrow sooner or later. So we're going to go ahead and create skill. What it's doing now is it's creating the skill, but it's also provisioning all the resources on the AWS side, because it's using a big master account for all of these Alexa hosted skills, and it's going to give us very limited, like a role with very limited access to only our resources. So it takes a little bit longer than if you were defining your own endpoint, which all it needs is an HTTPS endpoint to send the post JSON request to, or if you're using Lambda, the Lambda ARN. If you do use Lambda, you have to select the trigger Alexa Skills Kit, otherwise it won't work. Preparing the code editor now, and we can get started in about 10 seconds. Or actually, in about 15 minutes. Because the pizza, I see, has arrived. So while the pizza is getting set up, let me just walk you through what this is. So we have our skill. We have a section called build here, where we have our intents. Remember our intents? It defaults to hello world skill, which we will be completely deleting. And then there's some built-in intents that every skill should have, which is cancel, help, and stop intents. So that anytime you're using a skill, you can always say cancel, help, and stop, and the skill needs to handle it. Then we have our slots types that we can create or use. We have our endpoint, which in this case has been pre-filled with the Alexa-hosted Lambda endpoint. But if we were using our own Lambda, we would put it here. And a bunch of other stuff that for now we don't really need. So this is where we really make the voice interface, where we define what our invocation name, which doesn't need to be the same as our skill name, where we put our intents. Then we have our code, where we actually code the backend. And then we have the test, where we have a fully fledged simulator where we don't need to have a device to actually test our skill out. But as I said, if you're using the same email, you can use your own devices to test it out. And then we have the distribution, where we prep our skill for publishing, where we put an icon, a description, a metadata. Certification process, where it does some functional tests, and then you can hit submit. And it's completely free. There's no yearly fee associated with it. And then our analytics, where we can track usage of our skill.
Yeah.
So when we come back from pizza, we'll actually start creating. All right.
Thank you, Andrea.
Cool. Let's
Yeah, guys, help yourselves, and yeah, we'll pick it up in about 15 minutes. Sorry about the
perfect time.
I didn't realize it. Since we talked, it became possible like 3 months ago, 4 months ago. So let's pick it out. It's very nice.
Yeah, we use like big method, like crazy.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
So it's no issue for you.
yeah, my the CEO.
That's good. Oh, this is super cool. Is it your first time at this meetup? Yeah. I mean, yeah. I'm really thirsty too. Yeah, it's a great video. Yeah.
Every time I have to turn my fucking lights off, it's like, Alexa, turn off the lights. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know what lights you mean. Alexa, turn off all the lights. Oh, there we go. Good timing. Good timing. Yes. I'm sure there are ones that might do different things, but they won't do the same as us. Just want to be so for example. It's not so light. That's this kind of stuff. Somebody needs to design a building and decide what kind of lights they want inside. Like lighting design decide what lights they want. But you just need to know how to see the products they want and the necessities. Yeah.
Oh, okay, so we need a new like. Very, very lucrative. Yeah. Yeah. Playing radio too. So.
When you can solve things like that, something with contextual solving, you can see one line on the web page, which part is not wrong.
Way better. These t-shirts.
Really? I'll tackle it. I'll tackle He wants to do. Actually, you can come back and do JavaScript stuff. Depends on money she might say. If she wants to, I'm happy to go for a drink with her and tell her how we want to do things. Because I've got another girl that said to Alex today, team needs a female. The reason I think our distinction or even notice is just never female. Another set of recruiters don't, because it's a way to approach other parts of the audience. So that's what we're missing. We're going to chat down here. We've got two guys that got me that are really social and get a female where less confident people can approach. Because me and you both look relatively similar. You're quite big, I'm big. Yeah, let's have a similar conversation, and I will, because if we can hit target this quarter and everybody else is up at speed, I'll say what I said,
Who's the girl you're after?
called Natasha Maxwell. The first chat there. She approached me.
Oh, really?
I've seen her. Because she works for a Manchester-based company that lives in Knox. Very good. She's good.
She's changed on the tech around here.
Website's definitely going live on the 1st of July. Oh yeah. Is that number 2? Which one? I will have orange zero. The last it's a classic part is definitely going live on the 1st of July. I'm going to do so for a bit. Do you mind if I look?
Of course.
It's very interesting stuff.
It was so relevant because I've literally got a meeting tomorrow to talk about Alexa skills, and I saw this because I was technical in the past life, and I've moved into management, and we're talking about what opportunities are there. Because I head up the apps team for Next, and basically how can we harness this power? To say actually throw my favourites to the app or whatever it may be. And one of the biggest things is learning what we can get to.
So you know how we have this part? If you scroll down, intent history.
Ah, really? Okay.
Just click here, and it shows you frequent intent requests to your skill from the last 30 days. And you see the utterance that was said, the confidence, the intent that it was mapped to, the slots, the dialogue that it had. Intent history display when your skill has 10 or more active users in a day, so that it can anonymize them.
Okay.
You can't trace it back.
No, of course. Yeah, we don't need to know who's saying it. It's just,
Yeah, exactly. Just to know what's being asked, right? So you can handle it.
and you're also recording that, obviously, to improve the.
So I mean, I think the only I would say it's more on the voice recognition, whereas this is more on the handling. So you have that.
Because obviously we've engaged with third parties that specialise in writing skills, and obviously they're reluctant to share that because they have their unique selling point and us to get in bed with them and they are writing our skills forever. But that raw data is for us, so it's brilliant. It's worth the free pizza. No, it's really good. It's really good. Okay. I can actually follow some of the code, so it wasn't too long before I used to write Java with it. So
And you'll see it's really easy.
yeah, I might even not want to with the example. Would you be able to send a slide deck as well?
I won't be able to send the slide deck, but I'll be able to share with you all the code that we make, so you can just pick off where we left
Yeah,
off.
I think I've been alright because I've been
kind of
scribbling. Yeah, it's mainly the phrase because at my level I don't need to know. I mean, the code is great. I can go in and I can mess around.
It's more terminology.
Yeah, exactly. But I think I scribbled down the most things. I think the main thing was the way it breaks down into, like you said, the wake word, the utterance, the slots. Yeah, so I think and I wrote that down. So that's perfect. Yeah, no, it's really good. It was perfect timing, literally. For my meeting tomorrow, I'll go in there and be like, yes, I know what I'm talking about.
So I've got one question. So how you create the app and you set the language, is there a way? So like if for example if your user base increased and you decided to go into like Portugal or something like that, would you be able to? Yeah.
To extend the language.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
It's like so you don't have to like create a new sort of.
So look, you go here. You can look there. We go to language settings, and you can add a new language.
Oh wow.
And these are all the supported languages for now. So Portuguese, Brazilian, German, Italian. You just have to re-implement the voice interface in that language because
Of course.
the words change, the structure, grammar changes, everything. But for all English locales, you can just copy and paste what you've done because it doesn't really change much, right? So yeah, absolutely.
That's really good.
And when you say the Alexa devices, your phone is a device. So you go to the app and you can say something.
Yeah. I can open the app and try. Once we start testing the skill on the simulator, I'll also open my phone and test it. And I'll disconnect this cable because when people see cable, it's like, oh, it's transferring things, but it's not. It's just charging. Yeah.
So there's no way of embedding Alexa into an app that we've got. It'll be so. For example, like I say Alexa, next app or next skill or whatever. There's no way of having a button or actual app that says go Alexa skills.
No. But instead of having a button, you can just put a sentence. Just put a sentence saying, Alexa, open, or Alexa, ask to do something. Ask next to do something. And that alone will be your entry point.
You know what the biggest blocker for us to do this with? The keyword, the wake word. Because it's next. And we call it because it's such a common word. It's not like
You can call it next IT.
but it's for the customers too.
Next works.
You can't trademark that, can you?
There is a big.
There's probably a lot of companies that are
Well, no, that's our business. So I'm called Next, so I can do that.
Oh.
Yeah, but Next is such a common word.
Yeah.
You know, because like Alexa is a very unique word. Uber,
I mean, Uber was a pretty common word. In Germany, it means super.
of course, yeah. No, it's really interesting space. What about the voice recognition of individuals and how Alexa works with AI? So if I said Alexa, you would know it's me. But if my wife said Alexa, you would know it's her. So they can obviously interpret different skills. Is that a space that you guys are looking at? Because I know that Sky are doing.
Yeah, so like voice profiles.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
It
doesn't work for skills yet, but it works for Alexa normally. You can set up the voice profile.
Yes, and then you can log into your bank with my voice.
No, you can't. Well, you can speak to Alexa, and Alexa will adapt. For example, your music preferences, your preferences based on you, rather than someone else's register. They can also detect about it would be great to just be able to authenticate
That's
something.
one of the things that's interesting for us, because obviously with menswear and women'swear, then whoever's talking to Alexa, I think once the, is it Alexa, Echo Show is on the screen, yeah, once that happens, it can make life easier to change that, because you can actually browse through.
Alexa on the Fire TV.
Yeah.
The same functionality now.
All the fire task skills,
Has like the show mode.
just as easy to develop as
Make it like a silent film, like,
Yeah.
cuts it flat.
Then you link it to it, guys, get your products back. See,
That's really good. I have a spare Raspberry Pi at home, so that's really
You'll see, it's quite easy.
Yeah.
And I'm not the first one but I just need to get a bag.
Are we ready to go? All right. Okay, let's get started. So, we wanted to build the fridge skill. Empty fridge. What intents do we want to handle with the empty fridge? right? So let's think of our skill called empty fridge. What do we want empty skill to do? Empty fridge to do. Okay, so check item status sort of thing. So let's delete this hello world intent. Yes, yes. So we're going to do the check item intent, for example, right? So this intent allows us to check whether an item is in the fridge. And we'll probably also have an add item intent and a remove item intent. So what sentences could trigger check item intent? Is milk in the fridge, right? However, we don't want to hard code milk here, because remember, we only get this string. We don't get this. So, yes, great. So we add a slot. We can highlight that word and turn it into maybe item. Now we've created a slot called item, and it's been added here. And we'll need to give it a type. Let's see if there's a food. Oh, there is a food built-in type. But I'll also show you how to make a custom one, if there weren't to be the custom the slot type that you need. So is item in the fridge, or do I have item? What else? I need your help here. Have we got any item? Perfect. We don't want to have, and these three are perfect. So let's not worry too much about like slight differences of a single sentence, but all the different structures that we can use. So do I have we got any, is item in the fridge? Let's think of all of them. How much item? Yeah, that's making a design. That's making a design decision that whenever we check for an item, we also get the amount, right? That's up to us. Otherwise, we might have a different intent, which might not be what we want, which would be get item count intent if we wanted to separate them. But let's make everything together. So how many item do I have, or how much item do I have? Okay? Oh no, not milk. Item. Okay.
What about how long has item been in the fridge?
That would probably be a different intent. That would probably be get detailed description of item intent. Okay, so let's keep this for now. Save our work. Let's have a different intent now. Let's have add item, because we can't really check items until we add them. Add item intent. And here we can use the same slot. So a slot is specific to an intent, but we can reuse the same slot types. So here we do add item to the fridge, or add amount, right? Item to the fridge. And if people don't specify an amount, we can choose to either default to 1 or ask for the amount. Let's say that we ask for the amount, so I'll show you how you have a multi-turn conversation. So item, we'll also call this food, just for the example, and amount will have Amazon.number. Let's not get too pedantic here about weight and count. This would take a little bit more work. But let's say it's just unitary amounts for now. So add 3 carrots to the fridge, or add 1 carrot to the fridge, or add a carrot to the fridge. Add to the fridge, or add item. Okay? And let's just go like this for now. And we'll see. So this is asking for a specific item. What we could do is, if we don't specify an item, so if item is not defined, it just tells us what we have in the fridge. Okay? So what do I have in the fridge? What's in the fridge, etc. And that's also a design decision. Let's also make amount here required. So in our add item intent, remember we have 2 slots, but most times people will just say add carrots to the fridge, and we'll want Alexa to follow up and say how many carrots, and we'll say 10, 20. How do we do that? We can do this automatically by going to the slot section here for the amount, and making it required. So here it says, is this slot required to fulfill the intent? Yes, we need to know how many are there in order to properly fill in our database, let's say. So what we'll ask the user is how many? Or how much? Yeah, here's where we would get a little grammar tricky. What amount? Maybe let's just keep it to what amount. Makes it agnostic. And if you put multiple versions here, it'll pick one at random so that it varies. And then here we say what the user can answer. So we'll say amount, for example. Or I think amount. Or amount, I think. Or about amount. Or around amount, right? Again, Alexa would still pick it up, but let's just be thorough. Sorry? Aboutish. Or amount-ish. Is that what you said? Oh, I thought you said aboutish. So you didn't say aboutish. Okay. Now that I reread it, it makes less sense. Okay. Let's continue, and let's save the model. And for now, let's just start implementing these two intents. Then we can go back if we have more time. But let's just, because once you see how it's done once, you know how it's done the rest of the time. So when we go to our code, I'm going to open a new tab so that we can switch back and forth quickly without reloading the page. We have two intents for now: check item, add item, and the built-in ones, cancel, help, and stop. Remember we had a hello world intent, which the code is also based on. So we have a hello world intent handler. Let me zoom in here a little bit. Now, super easy, even if you're not a coder here, very simple high-level view of what this code does. Every handler's job is to handle an incoming request. And the way that the handler self-selects itself is to have a can-handle method, which will be tested. Every handler's can-handle method will be tested until the first one returns true. If the can-handle returns true, the handle will be used to handle that request. And what do we put in the test, in the condition, to check whether this is the right handler? We, for example, in the launch request, we say whether it's a launch request. In the hello world intent handler, we check whether it's a hello world intent, right? So we change this, obviously, to be, let's make sure that we copy this exactly, check item intent. And we check that it's check item intent. And let's just do, for now, a placeholder, you triggered check item. Then I'll show you how to read slots and everything. So the handle method is what will be used if this returns true. What we end with is a response builder object that has a speak. Anything we put in the speak will be read out loud by Alexa. And if we want the session to remain open, we add a reprompt. So Alexa will wait for user input, and if nothing is heard for 4 seconds, it'll say what's in here. So we could add something like, I did not hear that, single quotes. For example, can you repeat, right? So just by putting reprompt, it'll wait for user input, but if it doesn't hear anything, it says this. And then you close off the response builder with a get response. We also have different directives that you can use to send back a multimodal template, send back a card. You can, let's say, chain the response builder with different things, but this is the bare bones speak and reprompt. Okay, so we have a check item intent handler, which checks for a check item. Let's make the same exact thing. Let's just copy and paste this for the add item intent. Also super easy. Add item intent and add item intent. Now you triggered add item. Okay, but these objects are just defined. Sorry? Add item item. Did I call it add item item? I called it add item item intent. intent. Sorry, my fault. Add item intent and intent. Okay, I like this extreme programming. Keep it up. So we have add item intent. While that's building, sorry, now I'm actually building the model so that Alexa starts to digest this and have it in the knowledge graph. While that's building, which takes like 30 to 60 seconds, depending on how complex ours is, ours is super simple, so it'll take like 20 seconds. Let's register these handlers, because at the bottom you'll see, the bottom, we have our skill builder object where we register all the handlers we've created. So here we have check item intent handler, and we'll also add item intent handler. Boom. So now we can, Alexa or our skill backend, our SDK, right, will know that when an incoming request comes, it will evaluate these handlers in order. The first one that returns true will be the one used. So make sure that the order you have them in is from most specific to least specific if there's ambiguity. For example, if you have an error handler or a fallback handler that returns true every time, you want to put it at the bottom of this list, right? For example, intent reflector is a intent handler that just returns if it's an intent request, meaning it's the fallback handler. Okay, let's deploy. Deploying just saves it to our Lambda. It has nothing to do with Alexa. If we had our own server, you would save it however you wanted. And now we open our new tab for testing. This is where we have the developer console where we can test. Let's enable testing. And from the moment you click enable testing, that's when your skill is also available on all your devices instantly. And we do open empty fridge.
Welcome. You can say hello or help.
Now,
which would you like to try?
Where's that text coming from? It's coming from the launch request. You can say hello or help. What would you like to try? So when you say open, it triggers the launch request. And here you see also the input output. This is exactly what JSON request is hitting our backend. If we were using our own custom server, this would be logged in your logs. And we have our, I think I bug here. It's
Goodbye.
an old. Let me open it again.
Welcome. You can say hello
yeah.
or
See,
help.
it's a launch request.
Which would you like to try?
Welcome. You can say hello or help. Now, let's try an intent. Let's say add carrots to fridge.
What amount?
What amount? Let's say 10.
You triggered add item.
And you see here we have add item status, add item intent, item, value carrots, value 10. Now here is not what we want. We don't want carrots to fridge to be our slot value, right? Because otherwise we would be saving carrots to fridge. So here's where we would kind of debug and check why it's doing that. So carrots to fridge, why is it doing that? Let's go back to our interaction model. It's still working, but it's not working perfectly. Yeah, so that's interesting. Just to be safe, let's say add item. Usually shouldn't do that, but to fridge shouldn't be needed, but let's just be exhaustive. And another way to test, let's say you don't have a backend yet. Another way to test your voice model quickly is to use the utterance profiler. It doesn't hit any backend, it just evaluates your dialogue. So for example, if I say add milk to fridge, right? Or until that builds, let's say to the fridge. It'll say intent, add item intent was triggered with item milk, and the amount is going to be 3 milk. Very standard amount of milk that people have, and amount 3, right? So now you can start debugging. If you start typing random sentences like, how many bananas in a banana tree, you're like, whoa, check item intent, and you see it's going bonkers. That's because we don't have a fallback intent. So let's actually add that. And it's a built-in intent. So let's just fall back. Let's add it. So now we have a fallback intent in case things don't make any sense. But that's just a nice to have for now because we don't really need to stress test it. We just need to make it work. So we have check item and add item. So check, or what was our sentence? What did we say we wanted check item to do? Yeah, like what do I have in the fridge, right? What do I have in the fridge?
You trigger check item.
Check item, and item is empty. The slot item is empty because we haven't triggered it. Now let's start handling these. Let's start playing around with this. So first of all, let's change the welcome message to be, welcome to your fridge. How can I help? And instead of saying you triggered check item, let's start keeping track of this fridge. Let's read. So I'm going to introduce a little bit of an advanced concept, but since all of you are kind of, knowledgeable JS developers, you can follow along quite easily. As you know, Lambda is stateless, and so is Alexa. Alexa will always send you a new request that every time you say something to your skill, even if the blue light is on, you get a new request. So how do you persist information in that session across incoming requests? We do that with session attributes. You save session attributes, which in this case are empty in our response because we haven't set any yet. And Alexa will take those session attributes and include them in the next response. Okay? So let's set some stuff there and read some stuff from there throughout our thing. So let's say that when we open the skill, for example, we initiate, well, we don't really need to initiate anything because, yeah. Let's say when we start adding items, we initiate the session attributes for now. And then I'll show you how to persist. Let's do const session attributes equals to handler input attributes manager dot get session attributes. Now we can write to this object whatever we want. It can be sub-objects, arrays, anything. Then we just set it. So here we do, let's read the slot item that's come. So when I type, for example, add caret to fridge.
What amount?
10.
You triggered add item.
Right? We have value 10, caret 0. But look at this. We go to request, intent, slots, value, and item value. So we do const handler input dot. You see how here it's reading the same type of request intent dot name. We'll do request envelope. So now it's accessing the JSON. Request dot intent dot slots intent dot slots dot. This will be what? This will be the yeah. Let's do amount, and then we'll also have the item. Const item is equal to, let's just copy this, we'll need to rewrite it and change that to item. And we'll save it in the session attributes. So we'll do session attributes, we'll do something very, very dumb for now, dot item is equal to amount, for example. It's not pretty, but it'll do the trick. And then when we're done, we set the session attributes to make sure that they are saved. We also have something called interceptors, which I won't go into right now. Interceptors allow you to have common code regardless of the request or the response incoming or outgoing. So you can have request interceptors that intercept the request and process it before it hits the handlers, or response interceptors that intercept the response before it goes out, for example, to save attributes to memory or make calls or clean things up. But in this case, I'm just going to do this setting and getting in the handler, which, again, if you do this in various handlers, it's not the recommended way, but you get the idea. So I'm going to set the handler input dot set session attributes and pass in the session attributes object as the argument. Now let's save that, and you'll see what the session attributes actually look like when we start adding things. It'll populate the session attributes object with stuff. So let's try that. We'll do add caret to Fridge.
What amount?
10.
You triggered add item.
Now look, item, oh wait, I think we messed up. Yeah, we think we did, I think we messed up here. Oh, oops, sorry, my fault. Should be item like that, right? Oops. I'm surprised no one caught that. I'm counting on extreme programming, guys. Okay, let's do it again. Add, let's just, if you try building skills at home, you won't have these little buttons. It's a Chrome plugin that I'll link to you later. It's super useful, so you can reload things and add
What
them.
amount?
Add them here so you can re-click them instead of typing. Let's say 10.
You triggered add item.
Now we have carrot. Okay, 10. Next time I say add milk to fridge,
What amount?
and I say 1,
You triggered add item.
you see that the incoming request to our skill has the previous attributes, and now the response has the updated attributes. If we add something else, it's going to be 3 items on the left and the 4th item on the right. Because this is the incoming request, this is the outgoing response that finished everything, which is where we added milk, item 1. Now we can check items. So now we have a live session, and by the way, we can change code here and deploy it and test it as the session is ongoing in the simulator, because there's no timeout or very long timeout. So instead of triggering check item, let's read what item the user is asking for. So let's say item is equal to what we did here. Is it still saved in my paste? No. Let's do like that. Nope. Intent.name. No, not intent.name. Damn it. Intent.slots.item.value. Right? And why is it giving handler input? And now we check in the session attributes. So we also re-get the session attributes. And here's where you start seeing that it's a bit of a pain to do this in every single handler. You should use the interceptor. And we'll do if item and, well, if item and, well, let's make it extra sloppy. If item and session attributes dot item is greater than 0, right? Let's also parse int this. And yes. Yes. Okay. What happens if you parse int and undefined? Does it return nan? Probably. Probably. We'll see. And then so this means the item exists and there's an amount, then we would do, let's do a let speech text. We'll do speech text is equal to, you do have, let's use the new fancy JavaScript. You do have item, and we'll say the value. Okay. Otherwise, else for now we'll just say, actually else if item, you say you don't appear to have item in your fridge. Else we'll say, we'll read out the session attributes. So we'll have to do object.keys, blah, blah, blah. Oh my god. I never remember this. Okay, object, or no, is there a new modern way of doing this? Foreign or something? I just want to get a list of what items you have and how many of them. Is it foreign maybe?
Yeah, no, you do object.
pass it to the.
Ooh, wow, really? That's cool. Oh, that's pretty cool. So that's nice. Okay, let's use that. So else, no, not else. Else, if I want to check that session attributes, or no, okay, let's just do like this. So now we have an array, right? Probably not the best way to do this, but item array dot push, right? Because I want to populate a whole list of them. No? Let's do this. Let's do value plus key. What's object one? Oh, item session attributes. Item array dot push value plus key, right? Plus, yeah. So we have 3 plus a comma. No, we'll join it later with a comma. Okay, so 4. Okay, so here we get an array of strings containing the value and the item. Now, okay, now if item array dot length is greater than 0, speech text will be, so not going to work on the first try. Will be yes. You have, let's do it like with the fancy strings again. You have want to add anything else, for example, right? Else speech text, you have nothing. Yes, but it's funnier if it just says you have nothing. It's going to be a bit of a smug fridge. It's only going to reluctantly help. This is, however, let's change this speech text as well. Instead of saying you triggered add item, which is not very nice, let's move this down and say what item has been added. I've added amount item. Okay, then we can have like randomized phrases to make it interesting. But yeah, you get the idea. Okay, so let's try this. Let's see if the session is still ongoing. It should. If we say now, what do I have in my fridge? Let's see if it's deployed first. Yes, deployed.
You have 10 item, 1 milk, 10 carrot. Want to add anything else?
Well, it's working. Now I'll show you why session attributes are not enough. We say stop. The blue light turns off on a real device. The session is ended. Now we say open empty fridge, right?
Welcome to your fridge.
Look at the session attributes.
How can I help?
Empty. I can say, what do I have in my fridge?
You have nothing.
I like the skill already. You have nothing, okay. Add, what's something that works properly? What would you add more than one of in units? Beers, yes. Okay, no, let's add eggs. Okay, add eggs to the fridge.
What amount?
12. I'm more of the bulk guy, you know.
I've added 12 eggs.
Nice.
If you say like a dozen, will that interpret?
That's a good idea. Let's try it out. Let's try adding 12 beers. Add beer to the fridge.
What amount?
A dozen. Let's see. May work, may not.
I've added beer.
So I guess the answer is no. A dozen. But that would be actually a pretty cool way to... so you see how we have Amazon.number? Most slots, apart from this one, we can actually extend. Apart from this one. What I would do is probably make a secondary alternative slot that doesn't have to be defined, but you check if it's defined if the other one isn't. With things like, and we can even do it now. Let's try doing a custom slot since I haven't showed you that. Let's say custom amounts, right? And we'll say dozen. Actually, we'll still do it, but I just want to check something. Let's see if there's a slot type called amount. Only hours. Perfect. Quantity? No. No, but that's fine. We'll make it ourselves. So custom amounts, we'll have dozen, which will have an ID of like 12, for example, right? Or actually, let's say 12, value 12. No, dozen, ID 12, and we'll have a dozen. What other ways is there of saying 12? 10 plus 2, 13. We're going to be here a while. Minus 1.
Twice 6.
Twice 6.
With the Amazon number data type of work, you specify like, say, give me pi amount of beers, and it would just give you 3.4
Let's try it. Let's add carrot to fridge.
What amount?
Pi.
I've added
No.
carrot.
It would make things, so one thing that I should show you though is if you do face these sort of things, go to alexa.uservoice.com, which is our way. So the product teams do monitor this, and a lot of the recent features have come from these requests, and either check whether your request has already been asked for or like Amazon.number pi. Don't think it's been asked before, but see, for example, a negative, etc. You can post your own, and people can vote it, and we can help signal that we want to extend it. So let's go back to our. So now, if we ask, "What is in my fridge?" it's going to have some
You have
issues.
12 eggs, beer, carrot. Want to add anything else?
Right? And we'll say stop, and that will end the
Goodbye.
session. Now, what I wanted to show you was the custom slots. So we have 12. We have a dozen. What other terms are there for? Well, not dozens. Dozens is more than 12.
Shitloads.
Baker's busy.
Hmm?
Baker's doesn't disturb you. Half of it as well.
13. Pastry chefs dozen. And here we'll do truckloads. Truckloads. And as a synonym, there may be things like, things that you can add if you want. And this will be like 100, for example. What else?
What's going to happen like if Alex is asking you like if you want to add anything else and you say nothing? He's going to add nothing to the fridge?
If it depends what we let's say if we add. I stop the session. Let's say open an empty fridge.
Welcome to your fridge. How can I help?
Add carrot to fridge.
What amount?
10.
No.
I've added 10 carrot.
Now, when does it say anything else? Oh yeah, what is in my fridge?
You have 10 carrot. Want to add anything else?
Nothing.
Goodbye.
Okay. Hmm?
Yeah, it's a food, so it goes, like it's asking you.
No, it's triggering the cancel intent for now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so
because it's not a food.
Yeah, because it's not a food. Yeah. Okay. No, I heard because it's a food. I said, you eat nothing. Okay. Okay, so let's try the custom amounts, just so I show you how you would manage them. So now we have 3, 4 custom amounts. They're not really elegantly made, but whatever. We also need to custom type what? Custom type values must not be empty. They're not. Missing type values. Not getting. Oh wait, did we forget to assign? Let's see here. No. That's weird. Custom type values must not be empty. They're not. Oh, is the bug? Oh, okay. I think there was a bug. Okay. Now we have to assign this type. Let's say add. Let's make a new slot. Custom amount. Item. To fridge. Okay. And we'll assign it a custom amounts type. And in the amount, we can also expect custom amount as a value. Let's rebuild. Oops, we're gonna have to rebuild that. Anything you change on this page has to be built. Anything you change in your backend, you have complete control over, and doesn't need to be. It depends on your own deployment method. But anything that you build here has to be built because it's actually being sent to Alexa. And then when you publish a skill and it's live, this gets locked. If you want to change anything, you have to go into it clones the skill into development mode, you make changes, you rebuild, you resend for certification, and then when it passes, it substitutes the live version. Okay? So you have always access to your code, but this gets locked down once your skill is passed for certification. That way you can't change and mess things up, but you can mess things up in your backend if you want to, which is not a good idea. So let's go ahead and rebuild it because we want to make sure that we are able to answer with a custom amount when Alexa says what amount. Any questions so far while we wait? Yeah.
Can you stick all of this in source control?
Yes. So probably many of you don't like working with browsers, right? Because browsers have bugs like that one. They're slow to load. They crash. So what if I told you that we could have, let's say, don't save this. I'm going to regret that. And open open a folder. Let's open up a new, let's go to Alexa, and yeah, let's go here and go to like CLI test. Open, right? Now, look at this. I open up my terminal. Let's zoom in so you can see it better. All right. Wow, it's so zoomed in you can't see it. Okay. Now I do ask new. Let's do Node. If you're Python, you do Python, but this is the right crowd for Node. We can start with the template. Let's just start with hello world. Doesn't matter. And let's type in the name of the skill. Let's say it's a CLI test example. Not very good. But now it's created a folder for us with Lambda, where we have our index.js, any node modules we use, our package.json, basically our whole deployment package for our backend. Our models, which have our intents. But by the way, this file that you see here, nus.json, is exactly the content that we have here that you can find on the JSON editor. Everything that we've done here is found on this JSON version here. And you can also overwrite this one. And you have one for each language that you support in your skill. You can support multiple languages. Now it has an instructions folder because this is cloned from a template on GitHub that has step-by-step instructions. But if you can always, we don't need that, including the README and the license. And the skill.json is the manifest for our skill. So we have our descriptions, where it's available, all the metadata that you would fill out when you publish something on the skill catalog. And then we have our private information. For now, this is a local folder that hasn't been deployed yet to Alexa at all. So it doesn't have any information. But look, now we do ask deploy. And we can also deploy only the interaction model or only the ask deploy. Once you're in the folder, you can do ask deploy. It's assigned it a skill ID now because it's a real skill now. And look, now it's already created it. And if we go to our skills, let's open in a new tab so that we don't lose this. CLI test example. It's pre-built, it's being built now. Everything is happening. If we start on the browser and we decide we're grown-ups and we want to go into the CLI, also very easy. We just get the skill ID. Let's close this, we don't really care about it. Let's go back and we do ask clone skill ID. Now this is because we're using Alexa hosted skills. I know that Alexa hosted skills is working with the CLI now. It didn't used to work, but yeah, I have to. I'll link to you the FAQ for using Alexa hosted skills because there's some quirks about it. But if you use your own AWS account and your own endpoint, you don't have this issue. And if we go, we have empty fridge, which is our local repo, and we have everything that we've done on empty fridge. So if we go to models, we have the English.gb version, and it has all of our values. So we have things like dozen, 26 twice, and then we have our code, which in this case we don't because it's Alexa hosted. But this is how you would use it on the command line. Version control everything because everything here is a text file. You can, every command, by the way, for those of you who use VS Code, every command is accessible if you get the Alexa Skills Kit plugin for VS Code. You get access to all of these commands plus the low-level API commands to manage your skill lifecycle. Everything. You can create, so remember you were talking about creating a skill that creates skills? You could create a skill that using the CLI and using the skill management API, especially, creates a skill, personalizes it, maybe based off a template that you have, publishes it, beta tests it, everything. One hackathon I was involved in a couple years ago when the skill management API was launched was a voice skill that allowed you to specify a store, an online store, and it would create the voice version of the store on the fly for you. And it won the hackathon. So that was pretty cool. Now that the model's built, I know someone had a question, but let's just wait 1 second. I just want to try out the new custom amount so I can show you how it works. So we'll do open empty fridge.
Welcome to your fridge. How can I help?
Say add eggs to my fridge.
What amount?
A dozen.
I've added eggs.
Now, yes, it is going to be like that, but okay, I wasn't expecting that.
This doesn't look bad.
Yeah, okay, we might have to. Okay, let's try that again. Add eggs.
What amount?
Dozen.
I've added eggs.
No, that's normal. No, why is it doing that? It should be using the custom amount. Custom amounts. Doesn't. That's weird. Let's try the one-shot invocation. And let's try this. If we go to amount, okay. No, because then we also tried with dozen. Yeah, let's try it one last time. I think I might know. Oh no, let's try this. Add. What's the? I think it's because the amount and custom amount are mixing badly. It's trying to prioritize custom amount because we have much more of them. Because when it's asking me for the amount, it's inside the slot filling for this amount. Technically, you can do this. You can put a different slot here, but maybe it's just trying to prioritize as much as possible the fact that it's trying to fill in this particular amount because it's asking for this slot. Let's just try a one-shot invocation, which is going to be add dozen eggs to fridge. It's not going to be pretty, but dozen eggs to fridge.
What amount?
Now it's going to ask us for amount because we've implemented it poorly, and we said that amount is required. So we'll say 10.
I've added 10 eggs.
But hopefully we have, see, custom amount, dozen, it was picked up. And we see all of the values of the resolutions. So we have value ID 12. The first value is going to be the closest match to the resolution, so to the parent. You'll see that there's a status code, which is ER success match. And if we were to say, for example, one of the synonyms for our custom slot, which was, what was a synonym for our, if we were to say 13 minus 1, or 10 plus 2, right? Let's try that. We'll do add 10 plus 2 eggs to fridge.
What amount?
10.
I've added 10 eggs.
Here we have 10 plus 2. The resolution is there's a match with dozen with ID 12. So we could go into this and pick up the first value if there's a match and use it as our parent value instead of relying. Now the reason why it's asking us for the amount, even though we specified it, is because in our build section, we said that amount is required to fill the slot. The better way to do it is to not make it automatically required, but check if custom amount is defined, and if it isn't, then manually elicit the slot. So we send it elicit slot directive, which is just adding it to the response builder, and it would fill in the slot. It would do the same prompt, just not automatically, because we don't need it automatically when custom amount is filled in. So you would just do it yourself. Also important with slots, you can do validations on the fly. So you can choose a validator, so accept only a set of values, reject only a set of values, or accept only slot types values and synonyms. It used to be that slot types were only an open-ended list. So you could put in 10 values, but if you said something that wasn't in the list, it would still pick it up. Now you can have a validation so that you say, I only want these 10 values and that's it. I don't care about anything else. Okay, so since it's getting a little late, I don't want to keep people here. Let's do something a little bit more useful so that you can pick things off where we left them off and see what we did. We'll just create a quick gist on GitHub with what we did today. So index.js, we'll call this the empty fridge. Index.js will be the index.js file that you copy in for the code, obviously. Then we'll add the interaction model .json, which is, can anyone remind me where that is? On the left, exactly. Perfect. So if you just paste, it's two-way data binded to the UI, so anything you change here will update in the UI and vice versa. So we can just add that here. And that's about it because we didn't really touch anything else. and everything that we did on the build section is summarized in this file. So I'm going to create a public gist and make a quick bit.ly so that you can save it. Don't worry about taking a picture of it yet. I'm going to put it up a slide with a bunch of links that I'll explain in just a second. Let's paste this in, and we'll call this empty fridge. Let's see if it's taken. It's taken. Someone has empty fridge. I'm scared of looking where that points to. Should we look? Just should we look? I'm curious. I'm curious. Empty fridge. Okay. Makes sense. Makes sense. Let's empty fridge skill. That could have gone very badly. That could have gone very badly. Don't do this at home. Okay, so we'll copy that and we'll add it to. Did I close PowerPoint? Yes. Okay. Let me just open my. I'm reusing a bit of a deck that I use for like longer form workshops. And oops. Oh, it needs to be the same color. Okay. So let me walk you through this slide. Okay, so that's Flux, sorry. Anyways. You have, it might make the photo of the, Node SDK is a link to the GitHub repo of the Ask SDK on GitHub. The README of that repo links to you a bunch of templates. Each template has a very detailed walkthrough on how to use it. Some of the ones that you can use are the Hello World, which is by default added when you open an Alexa hosted skill, the fact skill, how to template, how low game. The high low game shows you how to handle state and persistence, which we didn't get to cover. Then we have a page of releases, where they're available and what country and when they were released, for people who like to stay up to date. You know, you were telling me, oh, I tried this and I didn't know it even existed. That's because we launch things all the time. This is where you can keep track of everything that's being launched and where it's available. Then a guide to install the Ask CLI. It'll also probably tell you about the VS Code extension. The slides is an old version of the slides. You don't really need this. Then we have, if you're not technical, but you still want to build skills and you just simply don't feel like coding it, these are two websites that allow you to, that kind of abstract away the coding and just allow you to drag and drop the interaction with the dialogue, boxes. So you have, if user says this, then Alexa says that, and the user says this, and Alexa says that. You can have like a whole tree diagram. And this is the FAQ that I was promising you. This link will take you to the Getting Started guide with the Alexa hosted skills that shows you all the quirks of Alexa hosted with data persistence, with media storage, because as I said, Alexa hosted is like a dumbed down version of AWS where you have very limited permissions, so you're only using S3 and Lambda and CloudWatch, and that's it. And then this is the bit.ly to our skill that we built today. If you need anything, feel free to reach out on Twitter or on, this is also my email if you move this to the right. So if you have any questions related to Alexa or to Amazon or anything, feel free to reach out to me at amazon.com. And yeah, I think that sums it up. So thank you very much. Any questions, or is it too late? No?
We've got time for questions.
If people have got questions.
Any questions? I know someone had a question before. So I think did we answer it?
Question that never was. Anyway, yes, thank you all for coming, and we'll see you at the next one, I guess. Thank you again, and thank you to Andrea for coming down from London, or coming up from London.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's a pleasure to come here. Thank you very much for having me. It was really, it's refreshing to be, with people who get things quickly. So I could definitely see that people were getting things quickly. So it's always funner because you can go faster. You can, it's perfect time. And you can, just do things faster. So we were able to cover quite a lot. And hopefully you can pick off from where we left off and continue and build your own skill. So thank you very much for coming.
Thank you all. Thanks a lot. Cheers. Take care. Really appreciate that. That was fantastic again. As always.
Hopefully it was as good as you remembered.
Are these just for the taking, Josh?
Yeah. Go for it.
Are they all the same size?
I don't know. Men and men L. No, they're not all the same size.
This one's an M.
Thank you. I'll have a Firefox logo.
A women's large.
Thanks, Josh.
It's quite alright. Quite alright.
Men's medium.